Are you ready, Gary? What do you think? Hi, everyone, and welcome to Vaynerx Presents Marketing for the Now. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing extremely well. How are you?
I'm good. It's our 17th episode, and I have to say, after a day like yesterday, I'm feeling pretty fine.
That makes me happy. Yes, it is beautiful and sunshine, and I am extremely excited about our first show of the year.
We've got an awesome lineup. It's our first episode of 2021, and we are going to focus on one question, as you know. What does the modern media plan look like in 2021? So we're going to kick things off with Andrea Brimmer. Andrea is the Chief Marketing and Public Relations Officer at Ally Financial, where she leads a team of 150 disruptive marketers. Since then, Ally's brand has doubled in value every year since she launched the new promise in 2016. And so over those 3 years, they've been celebrating Ally's promise, do it right. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate being here. Hey, Gary.
How are you? So many Andreas.
I know, right? I've never been around so many Andreas at once.
So, Andrea, first of all, how's your new year going? How you feeling? What's cooking?
I am feeling good, Gary. I feel, yesterday was just a good day for our country. I feel like a good amount of peace and,
Ready to rock and roll.
The new year and ready to rock and roll.
So let's get right into it because, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So we're going to try to break this down a little bit. But I think what's real, and I love the dog in the background. Don't worry about that. It's perfect. It's exactly how I want it.
Sorry.
What does the modern media plan look like? And actually, I'm going to take 1 second to help the viewers. The comms planning, like where are you going to put your money to make the thing that you want to happen? For entrepreneurs, you're kind of doing that on the wheel. For big cos, Andrea will go into that in a second. And, there's a lot, you hire a media agency, they plan, but I think the landscape, Andrea, I think we can agree is changing so quickly. And kind of when you watch Mad Men years ago, the TV department just gets stood up, right? It's TV, print, outdoor, radio, go to sleep.
Right.
Then there's this thing called internet, but then my life's work realizes that's like saying oxygen. There's a million things in there. When you hear the question that we're doing today, what does the modern media plan look like? What does that come across to you as? And one last time before you answer, I see you all in the comments. Michael Lynn, Charlotte Nicole, Jeff Hodge, I see you on all the different platforms. Please hit Twitter hard with your questions and observations using hashtag marketing for the now, and we will try to incorporate you into the show. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Gary. The way that we think about it is, I could really boil it into kind of 3 words that are guiding the way that I think about it and the way our team's thinking about it at Ally: dynamic, disruptive, and culturally astute. And when I think about dynamic, it's the point that it is ever changing. Like, you take last year as an example, nobody would have ever expected the unavailability of original production, the migration of audiences to new platforms, the importance of things like gamification versus, linear TV. And a marketer that's not prepared for that, that constantly shifting atmosphere and just sets it and forgets it, is really missing where audiences are going. So that idea of dynamic is really critically important.
Do you feel like you have that in place? Like when you think, I think this is, and this is a community, especially today's question, going to help a lot of the community that you sit in, these incredibly important CMOs and operators. I have a lot of compassion, right? I know this ecosystem now after, a decade and a half. Yeah. The media planning capabilities, structure, and to be frank, the objectives of the, media agencies for their own margin, and I have empathy for their businesses. I'm in that business, though we come from a different angle, really challenge flexibility. A lot of those companies have major deals with platforms and networks that they have to, I made a promise to NBC. I'm going to make sure that Ally runs a little bit more commercial, and I'm going to justify. That's real talk now, and I want to get to the real crux. Do you feel incredible about the flexibility, or is that a 500-pound gorilla that's hard to move, just so people can get a read of how challenging this actually? It sounds easy for all the small business and entrepreneurs that are listening. That's all they know. It's actually stunningly hard for big companies like yours.
Yeah, it is. I think the advantage is that we've always had this scrappy challenger mentality. And we've always projected that ethos, and we've tried to reflect it in terms of the way that we've planned media. I mean, look, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that there's always going to be this compendium of planning that will have a level of consistency, right? You're going to buy your broadcast with a level of consistency. You're going to go into the upfronts, and that's what you're going to have, and you're going to plan against certain kinds of media, but you have to remain flexible and in a perpetual state of motion, because you not only can you not predict what's going to happen throughout the year, you also can't predict where audiences are going to go. And I just take last year as a great example. You know, we always keep a pot of money for optimization. People like my CFO crazy sometimes, where she's like, why do you have all this fluidity in your plan? I need more predictability. But we have to have it because you have to go where your consumers are going. One of the big places we moved last year was into gaming. People home. And we created an island on Animal Crossing. We did a ton around gamification. That wasn't anything that we could have seen at the beginning of the year. And if we didn't have the ability to push for that flexibility, and I think to your point, Gary, one of the things that we changed in terms of the way that we measure our agency partners, especially MediaCom as our media agency, is around creativity and media. And that becomes part of the KPIs that drive them. And I think that's where you get that tension between that long-term plan and I've got to be creative because I've got more to gain if I bring that creativity.
These are shotgun interviews, so we have 3 minutes. Andrea, when I say to you, what channel has your attention, either has already been incorporated into your media plan or is brewing in your mind as a leader and will then think about, okay, let's really try to test this year so it's a bigger part of our 2022. Is there any platforms, and this could be in any shit, it doesn't have to be the internet, like, is there anything brewing in that brilliant mind that has you like, look what's going on over at Clubhouse, or hey, I think print is back, baby. Like, is there anything brewing in your mind?
You know, what's the most interesting medium to me right now? Honestly, I mean, there's all the obvious ones, but outdoor. We have done some really interesting things in outdoor, and there's some incredible creativity that's happening there. And I think it gives you an opportunity to have a big stage.
Are the prices way down since people are in home? Like, when I hear outdoor, I mean, the amount of travel people, like the macro travel is collapsed. And so billboard, I think of like how many people are not on the road that saw billboards that are now just not on the road. Has the pricing become super attractive in that way?
It's not even think about outdoor and just that. Like, I think about digital outdoor. I think about over the holidays, we projected the 20 best moments of the year on buildings around the country. I mean,
point still taken though. I assume common sense driving. People are just in their homes. We have a global pandemic. Are the prices adjusting or
they're adjusting a little bit? But you'd be surprised at the interaction. People just want to get out of their house, even if they're just walking around. So it's an interesting medium, and we've done.
But real quick, because I'm fascinated by this. If everything went phenomenal, you have to expect on the greatest day ever, you're going to get 50% of as many people that would have saw those things on the building, let's say in 2018.
Yep.
My curiosity, not even anything else, is, that thought, like, you can't, I agree people want to get out of their house, but like, I live in Manhattan. There's a lot more people indoor, and I look at everything, I think that's an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it in terms of, as we start to plan coming out of this pandemic and the creativity that's there and the new things that you can do with the medium that have never been available to you before, and the ability to put the brand on a big stage. Everybody's rushing to the same things right now: gamification, digital, those social platforms, etc. But as we get into the spring and we kind of get out from under this pandemic, people that are taking chances on those kinds.
Actually, we ran out of time. This is such a pleasure already, but it's great to see you. Continued success.
Thanks, Gary. See ya.
Thanks, Andrea. Next, we have Molly Batten, Vice President of Global Brand Marketing for Delta Airlines. Molly leads global corporate brand strategy and management at Delta, where she and her team are responsible for portfolio marketing, agency management, cross-promotion planning, and media, among many other things. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, Gary, how are you?
I'm well, Molly. How have you been?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Good. Well, listen, I mean, there are very few industries that have been more affected than yours during this global pandemic. So, A, how's the company doing? How are you doing? It must be super challenging. And I obviously, because we have some mutual friends, I recall kind of pinging you when you first got the gig. And so you must have only been in place for a little over a year or somewhere in that range before this all hit. So before we even get into, and I'm actually, this is the one I'm probably most excited about because I'd be dying to know how you're thinking about media planning with, I mean, wow, what a challenging thing. You know, I'm pretty good at intuition and guessing, but this one's out of my realm, even like, when does it come back? Why don't you start with that? What's the opening rant to that energy?
Yeah, no, Gary, it's been a fascinating year. Yeah, I think it was last year at CES we were trying to connect because I know you had done a lot of work with Turner where I was before and a lot of help as we were launching brands and shows. So it is great to see you again. But it has been a wild ride. So I've been at Delta for a little over a year. So I've seen our best day ever last year, Profit Sharing Day, February 14th, and to kind of the worst day ever. So from the top to the bottom, and we just saw the bottom fall out as many across the industry and the travel industry did in March, and then just continued decline. And I will say it's been a fascinating learning process as we have had to rework and reinvent and innovate the airline from the inside out. Everything that we do by putting kind of our people and our customers front and center, from how we sanitize and clean every flight before every flight, how we, are still blocking the middle seat to make sure that our customers feel safe and comfortable when they travel, to partnerships with the Mayo Clinic and Lysol. I know more about air filtration now than I ever would have thought I would have, and just the airflow on the airplane. So it's been, we've moved from really creating demand and talking about travel inspiration to really having to educate our customers now. Travel is very different than it was last year. And we know that as people are coming back, whether it's your first time or you've been back many times, there's more and different information that you need now. And that is really affecting how we think about media planning into next year, because
and even, I'm sorry to interrupt, and even more, I would argue, not importantly, but equally as importantly, back to the creative messaging, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And so we, really headline is we've moved from broad-based kind of brand messaging to really audience first planning and messaging, because we have such a segmented
and you have plenty of awareness. I mean, there's not a person on this right now that does not know what Delta is.
Right. So it's really about, we elevate and we talk what our brand is about, or we lead with our values. Our mission is no one better connects the world. But right now we have, as you look across the spectrum of the audiences, we've got, folks who are not really ready to travel yet. So we have to have messaging that can connect with them of, when you're ready, we're here for you, and that travel inspiration. To those that are hesitant and thinking about it, so how do we connect with them with targeted messages to let them know all the different things that we're doing to keep you safe when you travel, and educate them on what travel's like, to the people who are now traveling, and how do we make sure that they're feeling good and connected, and we keep pulling them back in. So it's really a very different messaging strategy that has led to a very different media strategy, and focusing on those audiences and then identifying the right channels to hit them.
I apologize real quick. Jason Herrero says, stop interrupting, Gary. Jesus. I just want to remind everybody, these are 10-minute meetings. I'm desperately trying to get as much information out to everybody. These are my homies and friends. And so I apologize. I get it, but I just want to jump into Jason's comment and get a little more out of Molly. For example, Mom, any new platforms where the media is going because of this initiative? Like, do you have monies going into, whether it's a TikTok or a LinkedIn or pre-roll YouTube or OTT, a Hulu, like any interesting takes there?
I don't know so much new, but what we've seen is the increase of the impact of our social channels this past year has been critical. It's been a way for us to engage with our customers, leverage influencers, and really get our story across. And my social team has just completely stepped up and is really using it to inspire our travelers. So we see stories about the flight attendant who took the time to take care of the passenger, these inspirational, heartwarming stories about our people, stories about travel inspiration, because there's so much pent-up demand. And we think that this revenge spending is going to come back in full force, hopefully next summer, as this vaccine continues to be distributed. So
hold on, Molly, real quick. Did you just say
this coming summer?
Okay, so I just wanted to, no, because it's funny. I think you're making an interesting point. I think all of us somewhere in the summer of last year said, "Oh man," like the ones that were really being honest were like, "Oh, we're going to come back next summer. This is wow. Oh my God, I thought it was going to be 2 weeks." I would argue that, and I have empathy and compassion for this. There's some realization of like, wait a minute, we're not going to be as back to normal like 2019 even this summer. And that actually gets me to the next point. Do you have any insights? Do you believe that in 24 months, well, let's say we're vaccinated out, we're kind of over the hump, is it your anticipation that a high percentage of the people on the plane are going to wear masks even when we're back to normal? Do we get China-ficationed out? Like, do you believe that the US, from your perspective, like, I have been really thinking about this. I'm like, wow, will I ever take a flight again in my life where there's nobody wearing a mask? And my answer to myself was no. And not only no, I'm like, man, I bet you it's 25% of the flight is going to be there. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, Gary, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I think we're going to be seeing mask compliance for a while, even through the vaccine. We know it's important beyond, even as we continue to vaccinate the country. We know from guidance from Mayo Clinic and our partners that masks are an essential piece of kind of stopping the spread. So I think they're going to be here for a while. In terms of how long they're going to be with us, I can't really speculate, but I agree with you. I do think there's going to be percentages of people that just feel more comfortable when they travel. And it's not even past the pandemic. It's the person sneezing across the way from you, and that mask gives you some protection. So yeah, as to what level, I don't know, but I think there will be something that will carry through.
New platforms. I think I'm excited to ask people things that are starting to brew in your head of like emerging media platforms, because I think everybody who's watching, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and Fortune 50s, let alone Fortune 500s, can get value out of this question. Any new platforms or ones that they don't have to be new, but they've crossed over for you? Let's say OTT. You're like, oh, wow, I'm going to take some of my TV money. You're Turner, former executive, like you understand that landscape. Oh, I see some real value in the targeting of OTT. Or I'm genuinely excited about the passive consumption of voice. So this Spotify ad product. Anything in your mind as a lead strategist to where the media planning goes? Anything starting to brew?
Yeah, we're looking at a lot of different things, again, really understanding where our audiences are and how we can deliver against it. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in the podcast space as people have more time and are staying at home and kind of consuming that type of content. I do agree. I think streaming, we have seen huge shifts in the ways people are consuming media as people are home longer. Their viewing habits are changing. So how do we capture that attentive audience? I think, as Andrea was saying, I do think out of home is interesting. You can do a lot more with it than we used to be able to. And we look at it not only on the paid assets, but how are we using our own assets and our earned placements in a different way so that we're really using them to educate along the entire travel journey. Because we've got, we're really lucky. Once we get you in the plane, we have a great in-flight video, connected cabin is kind of our vision. And so how can we make that inside the cabin feeling feel like your living room? And there's opportunity there to kind of talk to our loyal and current customers and reinforce our messaging and our branding and our values. So we're kind of thinking about it through the entire travel journey. And I think there's a lot of interesting things out there. And then new ways to connect, right? So moving beyond your traditional just straight spot, and how do we create more interactive ways for our customers to kind of interact with us? And we've been doing a lot in social around gaming and questions and quizzes, as well as kind of asking the experts. So we open up so that people can ask the questions that are on their mind, and we get the right experts to answer them. So playing around with Instagram stories, and so there's a lot of opportunity for creativity, I think, within media. media for next year. And I know there's need to continue to be agile and be able to move as budgets change and we're figuring out what this world looks like, and travelers kind of expand or collapse, hopefully more expand. But having that creativity, I think, is going to be key to helping us continue to break through. And so, we're really looking at different ways that it's a two-way conversation.
I love that, Mal. We're out of time. Have a great year. Good luck. I know it's a challenging one, but we're excited to see what you come up with.
Great, Gary. Thanks so much. Hope to see you on a flight soon.